Hello and welcome. So today we're going to be building the Central Perk set from the Friends TV show. So currently here we're just trying to figure out the layout and how that will work. Just because in the actual TV show it is obviously in an apartment block, so it's a little hard to actually figure out how the layout looks if it was just a standalone building. So we're just trying to figure out where the windows and the doors will go, and which windows to actually use. So over here we just have the bathrooms, and over there we just have the kind of kitchen area where the staff would cook. It wouldn't necessarily be functional as that in the actual game, but that's what it is there for. And then we're just doing a little bit of rearranging and making it a little bit smaller because it seemed a little bit big. Over here, as I said, we're just doing the bathrooms, and I wanted to use single tile cubicles or stalls, and it just wasn't working. You'll see in a second that the actual bathroom stalls that are in the game are huge, so I ended up having to make the entire build bigger again just so that we could have some toilets in there. I did actually realise as well while editing this video that I did leave the information and the lot type on the screen for the entire video, so I do apologise for that. As we do the tour later, I do shut that down just so that you can actually see it without that being there. And then we're just finishing off the bathrooms and putting some mirrors in there. And I do go through and actually furnish everything properly and make everything, like to put wallpapers and things in there and floors. So here is obviously just the counter that is in there, and it's really hard to actually replicate the actual set because obviously the items that we have in the game are not necessarily the ones in the show that are shown, so I just kind of had to improvise and take a few creative liberties really just to get it similar. So we're just trying to figure out which coffee table to use because I feel like there are a few of them and all of the furniture is mismatched, so I do try to replicate that. And then I just couldn't figure out which brown sofa to use because I felt like that was one of the more important aspects of the build. So in a second we go through all of the brown sofas. Here we go through all of the brown sofas and just try and figure out which one to use, and it does take me quite a while. I do go through quite a lot of them before we get to this one that I'll be using. So then at this point I realised that I've been building in the dark, so just to add some lights. So I'm not sure they will be the ones that stay, or if they will. I think they do move at least, but the lights are currently just there so that I can see what I'm doing. feel like we don't really see the rest of the lot other than the actual brown sofa that they sit on. So the rest of it was a little bit improvised and a little bit kind of using common sense from seeing the show and kind of figuring out what I thought would be in there. So yeah, some of it is definitely improvised, especially the rugs as well, because it was really hard to find rugs that would match. What I really wanted as well here is a circular table with bar stools, but one of the issues that I had is that it didn't recognise them as dining chairs, so I got a little error saying that I had to use dining chairs, so I had to remove them and actually use those in the end. When I did look at photos as well, the floor just looked to be completely covered in different rugs, so I couldn't actually figure out what the floor was made out of. It kind of looked like tile, but then that just didn't look right, so I ended up going for the wood that you see there. And then just here I'm trying to figure out which sofa to use at the back, because I feel like it's kind of Ottoman type seats, just looking out of the window, but that wasn't really an option that we could do. And obviously this section here should be raised because it is a little stage type raised platform type area, but we were unable to do that. I really struggled to get this bit to look how I wanted it to look, and again with the rug I couldn't figure out what would be there, so just ended up going for this neutral brown type rug. The column that is usually there in the set, it didn't look right, it didn't work just because there was no platform, so I ended up in the end going for some plant dividers. But I thought that looked better and worked better than the column did in this build. And then this kitchen in a second that I'll just be moving on to, that was really tough to build because obviously we never ever see that in the actual TV show, so that was a complete guess as to where things would go. And then now I'm just going back through everywhere and adding some clutter, some decorations, some plants. And I'm not actually sure that I added a fire alarm, so maybe before I upload this to the gallery, I will go back in and add that fire alarm. And then just doing a little bit of landscaping. Obviously in the TV show it's just on a street front, so I tried to replicate that and didn't really add any trees or anything, so it just looks as though it is on a street front. And then the roof here, I did struggle with the roof just because of this corner piece here. I just didn't know how that would work and how to figure that out because it was quite an odd shape. So I ended up just going for this and then trying to make it look as though it belonged there, and I think I did end up changing it out in a second for something else. There we go. And this was the closest I could get just to get the lines to match up, so we just had to stop there because there was no way that it was actually going to completely match up. And I do realise that there are no windows at the back, but the places where the windows would be, just we have things in the way, such as the juice cabinets. There's not really a place for windows, unfortunately. And then the coffee tables I'm just placing there, I tried to make them as mismatched as possible. Most of them are just the same swatches for the same table. And there we have it, that's the final build. So in a second we'll be jumping over into the build mode so that you can have a little tour. I ended up placing Central Perk in Myshuno just because it seemed like the right kind of place to place it, because obviously it is in New York. A city seemed to be the right kind of place to put it. So if we jump into build mode and let's have a look. So I know that this was really frustrating throughout the entire video, so we'll close that now. There you go. So this is the final build, and I don't think it looks identical to the Central Perk, but it's really hard because obviously the view that we usually get is just here. So we tend to only see this little bit here at the very most. So obviously the lights are different. My main focus was to put lights that were going to actually light up the place, and I tried to use ones that looked like they could have been used in the 90s and not just any modern lights or anything. So I think there's a lot of room to kind of improve it, but at the same time I feel like it's pretty close, because we have to have some sort of creative liberties while building in The Sims. So this is the bathrooms, as you can see. This is the iconic sofa set. The kitchen, which obviously we never see, so that was really hard to do the layout because obviously we don't really see that in the TV show, so I just kind of had to make that up a little bit. And then here we obviously couldn't raise this up a little bit, which would have been nice because it is a stage or a little raised platform. So yeah, there we go. I will upload this to the gallery so that if you want to, you can download this and play with it. My origin ID is sgsims139, so if you want to have a look and download this, please feel free to do that.